Welcome back to Rusted Junk, the 80s Movies podcast. Do you find yourself wanting to put on a corked hat, fight crocodiles in the outback and then move to New York? How about befriending an alien by dressing him up as a ghost on Halloween? If so, this is the podcast for you. If you remember searching for that perfect film from Blockbuster, and if you grew up in the UK, waiting for that one VHS copy to be returned to the newsagents, then welcome. We'll have fond memories waiting for you. I'm Charlie, and the rest of the Rusted Junk team are Amanda.
Hello.
Joe.
How do you all?
And Dom.
Hello.
Anyway, it's spooky Halloween time. I hate that. I mean, I do that just because it's Halloween. I know, but I know you don't like it, but you've got to set the scene. We're not doing the final episode of the season. We're breaking a bit to do a horror film because it's Halloween time, so why not? But you couldn't do spooky ghosts with the film that we're covering, which is the 1982 John Carpenter film The Thing, starring Kurt Russell, Wilford Brimley, Keith David, Richard Dysart, Donald Moffat, so on. You couldn't describe it as spooky.
It is more sci-fi than horror.
It is more sci-fi than horror. And we don't have, for those that aren't watching, by the way, and wondering where Amanda's dulcet tones would be, she decided to give this one a miss because she doesn't like horror films. But as Joe just said, this is more sci-fi. So literally an hour ago, she asked me what The Thing was about, and I described it to her, and she says, "Oh God, that sounds like a really good film." Well, we'll get to that, but she liked the idea of watching it. But there are enough jump scares in this to make it a horror, and it's quite disturbing in parts, I would say. But yeah, there's no one to introduce it because it's nobody's film. Although I did give you two choices; it was either The Thing or Poltergeist. So please don't get to the end of this and go, "Why didn't they pick Poltergeist?"
Well,
Poltergeist did more of a horror, I would think.
I think this is a good film to discuss because it'll probably split opinion. Is what I'm guessing. I think it is more of a sci-fi than a horror. But then again, Alien or Aliens, these things can cross genres as well, can't they?
Yeah.
I think contractually, you are obliged to call this the Halloween Spooktacular, though. Yeah. So, and if you don't begin and end the pod with Monster Mash, then what we all doing here really? What's the point? That's what I would say.
Do you want me to edit Monster Mash into the start?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I do.
Okay.
Yeah, come on,
did I do that last time? I think you asked me to dance like a monkey last time and say just do this.
You've got to lean into it, otherwise, I'm just disappointed nobody's in fancy dress.
But what's a Monster Mash got to do with The Thing? I mean, if
Halloween.
we were doing, if we were doing like a film about Frankenstein or Dracula, which is what the Monster Mash was about, then yeah, I get that. But we didn't think about an alien that hides itself in other creatures.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it has to be like a literal relationship.
It doesn't have to be the Monster Mash, right? Okay. Anyway, dear listener, I would have already done it by this point. I would have done it in edit, so you'll find out who wins and who loses in that one. Right. So, initial thoughts about The Thing. Shall I go first? Because I rarely go first unless it's mine.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So I want to give a tiny bit of background on how I first saw The Thing. So, and I'm genuinely not making this up, right? So I think the year was 1993 when I first saw it. It was showing it. I lived in Oswestry in Shropshire. It was showing at the Telford Multiplex, which we went to every weekend. We took a 1.5 hour round trip, usually every Saturday, to go to the multiplex to see whatever was new. 2-3 films at a time. I think our record was 6. We did 6 in one day. But this particular time, it was on a Thursday. So my friend Julian said, "I'll pick you up and we'll go." And the snow came down in the afternoon like a demon. It was very thick. And I said, "I guess we're not going then." And he went, "I'm not missing this. We're going to go and see The Thing." And I went, "Okay." He followed an ambulance near enough all the way to Telford. And all he could see in the thick snow that was coming down was the taillights of the ambulance. And he was just following that. He couldn't see the road, couldn't see anything. He got us there, and that was suitably wintry enough for them to walk into this multiplex, which was full for the special showing. And I remember coming out of that and going, that was something special. That was something else. That was worth it. I mean, I know I didn't drive, but I was a very wary passenger on that one, going, please don't crash. And it was worth it. It was worth the trip back as well, which was equally as bad. I know we're going to discuss it. It didn't start well. It didn't have a good start. It didn't take a lot of money. It got a lot of crap thrown at it, and people didn't appreciate it at the time, I think. But it's one of those things that's grown. And a lot of people, I think, would probably have egg on their faces now from what they were saying back then, because I don't think it was very fair. I mean, we'll get into that later, but yeah. So from my point of view, I genuinely think this is a well-constructed, well-directed, well-edited, well-acted slice of science fiction with some jump scares. I wouldn't call it horror personally, in the same way I would never call Aliens horror. So yeah, but that was how I saw it and what I think about it. So, Joe, Dom, who wants to go next?
Shall I go next? Yeah, I think I'm glad you saw it at the cinema. I've never seen it on the big screen. I think it's probably one of those films that is benefited from seeing it at the cinema. I didn't see this film. For some reason, it passed me by until you recommended it to me a while ago, a couple of years ago, was it perhaps, or something?
Yeah.
And I have to say I didn't enjoy it that much when I watched it on your recommendation, and so I was looking forward to rewatching it now. So I thought perhaps I was in the wrong frame of mind when I sat down to see it, and it just, it is popular. It has become a cult classic, as you say. But honestly, my assessment of the film is I actually probably agree more with the original set of reviews that came its way. I disagree with some of the points you make there. I think perhaps the editing isn't so wonderful. I think that without going into all the review, but some of the big set pieces are good. I think it actually starts strongly. So perhaps I disagree with you in that respect as well, with the scene where the Norwegian crew are tracking and hunting the dog. But no, I found it problematic, and not without some good points in it as well. But definitely some, in my view, some fairly glaring issues that I'd look forward to discussing more when we get into the film.
Okay. But before you go, Joe, I didn't mean that the film starts. I meant that the reviews.
Sorry.
Like,
okay.
as in, it started badly with reviews. No, it's got a really great opening.
Yeah, my mistake. Okay.
Anyway, yes, Joe.
Yeah, actually, I've never seen it before until a couple of days ago. So it was interesting. And I think I told you one of the reasons why I didn't want to see it. I just didn't look, it wasn't interesting to me. The whole winter setting, or I guess Arctic setting, is it Antarctica or is it
Antarctica?
Yeah, it just never did anything for me. And also Kurt Russell being the star of it didn't do anything for me either. But I will say, I think, I don't. Did either of you ever see the original thing?
Yes. Great film.
Is it very similar to this?
Yes, but there's a lot more sort of paranoia. There's less effects. You actually see the thing. You actually see it manifest itself. A bit like you do towards the end of this, but yeah, it was more black and white. It's still a classic in the same way that Forbidden Planet's a classic. Based on the budget that they had. But yeah, it's very well made.
Yeah, I kind of felt as I was watching this was a bit of a ripoff of Alien. But then I started to think, is Alien a ripoff of the original Thing?
Ooh.
And I think you can answer that question. Because even though this is I would say a ripoff of Alien, it's a good ripoff of Alien, though. I mean, we've seen some that just aren't good, but I thought this was decent. It's not, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites, but I was intrigued. I was never really like, oh, this movie sucks. I thought it was okay, but it's not something that I would run out and purchase like a 4K version of it. I'm glad I watched it, but I don't know if I'll ever watch it again.
Oof, blimey. I can't wait to watch it again. I watched it in 4K, so yeah, it was great. Looked really good. Right. Well, after that, should we go to the trailer? Should we roll credits? No, well, not there. You know what I mean. Anyway, here we go. Here's the trailer.
12 men have just discovered something. For 100,000 years, it was buried in the snow and ice. Now it has found a place to live. Inside. Where no one can see it, or hear it, or feel it.
I know I'm human. Some of you are still human. This thing doesn't want to show itself. It wants to hide inside an imitation. It'll fight if it has to, but it's vulnerable out in the open. If it takes us over, then it has no more enemies. Nobody left to kill it. And then it's won.
You guys gonna listen to Gary? He can beat one of those things!
So, for those that don't know, if you go and watch the trailer, I've cut out the first 15 minutes, which is just, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, which is just mood music. So I've started it, got straight into the action with the inner world. So yeah, straight into that sort of into the narration bit. That looks good. If I'd seen that cinema. But unfortunately, people had seen that trailer at the cinema and they weren't that impressed. I know that basically they sat in silence at this trailer. And it's probably a good time to bring up what it was up against. So what are the other two films it was up against?
Oh, I know one of them.
Do you know the other? I know
No.
which one you know. I know which one you know.
E.T.
Yeah.
So did E.T. just blow everything out the water that particular year? Did it that particular summer?
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but I think they just rejected. I think some of the reviews were like, "Oh, this is really, America was going through a bit of a recession at the time. This is quite down. This is quite dark. We like this little fella because he's nice, he's cute, and he does stuff, and he heals things, and he dies and comes back to life, and people like that sort of thing. But they didn't want the alien to be bad. So The Thing didn't work. The other film that was out the same time as The Thing was Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
And people just didn't get it. I think I think genuinely, Blade Runner, I remember at the time being a sort of art house type cinema. It's kind of like, well, it might star Han Solo in it, but yeah. It's a thinking man sci-fi type thing.
I remember seeing E.T. and I remember reading about it before it came out in Time magazine and all these other periodicals. And the one thing that it had that other movies like that didn't have is that it seemed like they always made movies about evil aliens, that they were invading us. And this was like the first time that we really had a friendly alien. I mean, you could say Close Encounters of the First Kind, but I'm sure Richard Dreyfuss got probed the hell out of once they left that place.
What? Well, so you think all the aliens are like V? It's like...
Oh, yeah. I think they do a lot of probing. Once they realize that we're just basically cattle, in their minds. And that's another thing, too. I know your answer, Charlie. I guess I'll ask Dom, too. So what do you think about aliens? Do you believe that they exist? Or is this
back on this again? Are we back on Trevor? Who's yeah, go on.
Well, no.
Dom.
Or is this fiction?
Well, there's that famous quote, isn't there, which is that there are two possibilities: either that we are entirely alone in the universe, or that we're not, and each eventuality is equally terrifying. I think probably I do believe in it, because if you look at our own solar system, I think there are moons around Saturn that are suspected to have life. There's trace evidence of organisms on the moon. Perhaps ancient fossils. So if that's just our own solar system extrapolated out over the whole of the universe, then yes, alien life. Whether that means little green men flying around in saucers is a different matter, perhaps. But intelligent life, I would say yes.
Oh.
Otherwise, it'd be a complete waste when you look at the universe if we're the only ones inhabiting a planet.
Yeah, well, why have they? So is everyone at the same stage? Did we all start off like a race? Did we all like, right? Some of us are going to be a little bit ahead, some of us are going to be a little bit behind. Why haven't they visitors like Picard does in Star Trek First Contact? And creates the hyperdrive. Why haven't they done that? Why haven't they come in like
Picard
giving us
is
stuff?
He's an Earthling, so he's basically from our future.
He's from Yorkshire
Yes.
as well. Picard, isn't he? So Patrick Stewart. But the answer would be distance, wouldn't it? Because people don't really get their heads around what light years mean and that kind of concept, which is that if something is 10 million light years away, then if they're looking at an ultra high telescope at us, they're seeing things which were on the planet 10 million years ago. So the distances are so vast that would be one explanation as to why we're not seeing these things. But I know, Joe, you've paid a lot of attention to some of these recent NASA files being declassified and testimony at Congress and things.
I find it interesting.
That's a rubbish.
Sorry, I mean,
give us a more
sorry,
informed
Joe.
view, Joe.
Yeah.
No, go on.
No, it could be rubbish. I don't usually say that word.
We have discussed this before. If what you are reading is true, it's the single most greatest discovery of mankind, and yet everyone's worried about what's the next episode of Selling Sunset. Nobody's bothered. Nobody's interested in this sort of thing.
Perhaps we should explain for our listeners what you're referring to then. What's
I don't know. It's
biggest
Sally
discovery?
Sunset.
Selling Sunset is probably the worst excesses of humankind on in since the Kardashians. It's just vapid, empty people selling woefully extortionate properties, and it's scripted bitching and moaning. We have it over here. We have a show called Made in Chelsea. We have Only Way is Essex. It's all scripted nonsense.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
It's called Selling Sunset?
Selling Sunset. They're basically just an estate agent, or you call them realtors. Which is why would you call them realtors?
I thought you said Sally Sunset. Now, who's she?
Well, that would be interesting.
Can I just interject? This isn't what I meant by explain for our listeners, that particular TV show. I meant the alien thing, but perhaps we've already moved on from that. I'm not sure. So, Joe, what do you think about the whole alien conspiracy?
I'm kind of like with you, Dom. I think that, again, it would be a complete waste to think that when you look at the universe that we're the only inhabitants of the universe. But I don't know. I mean, you do see a lot of things, but especially with AI and CGI, there are always people trying to fool you with either recordings of UFOs or aliens in their backyard and all that. And that's what's frustrating, is that they're just idiots out there that they think it would be so great if they could fool so many people. So when we do actually potentially see something that's real, we're going to poo-poo it because it's like, well, there's so many other fake things before. How could this be real? But it is interesting. I think Charlie should go to Peru for a little bit and check out over there, because over in Peru, they're having this village there that's like, they're kind of a little backwards. I don't know if you would say that. They're not technology apt, although they do have phones, mobile phones, but they've been getting attacked by aliens for about 6 months now. And there's footage, they're face peelers. What they do is that they rip off people's faces and they use their face, I guess, either to imitate them or maybe they use it for soup. I don't know. But this is coming from the Peruvians. It's like maybe like 100 people, and it's like, are all these 100 people going to lie? I mean, the one telling thing though is the government came out and released an official statement, and that made things worse because they said they're not aliens, they're just illegal miners using jetpacks. And
that's like an episode of Scooby-Doo. Yeah. Okay.
What is more outlandish, that somebody's flying around in a jetpack from this planet trying to mine in this village, while these people are being attacked by these aliens. You should go, Charlie. Bring your 4K camera, capture some stuff.
The things that you describe sound extremely interesting. However, the next episode of Selling Sunset, Chantel's going to fall out with Janice or something like this. Why isn't this front page news if this is what you say is happening? Mainly, I think I'm in the camp of this is complete horse shit. I think that's where my camp is, because if it was true, if there was evidence, then it would be everywhere and the world would stop.
Well, they say the reason why
it isn't everywhere. Why? Go on.
Is because they're afraid people are going to freak out if it's told to the world.
Of course they are.
That they're not ready to handle it. That's why they're piecemealing it to us bit by bit. I mean, I'm not saying I believe it.
Joe.
I just read into it. But you can't poo-poo 100% on this either. I think
I just did. But
I mean, do you think that in the universe we're the only living beings in the universe?
Yeah, I used to have a trite line that I used to use. If I wanted to impress a girl I was talking to or something, I'd say something like, "Well, it'd be arrogant to think we're the only, intelligent life." No, it's bobbins, as you would say. We had a.
I don't say bobbins. I don't know what that is.
Right, we'll get to bobbins in a minute. Dom, I'm going to mention his name. Richard Jarman. Right, convinced that the pyramids were built by aliens. And he used to bang on about it every week. There used to be something. I used to read it and leave his books out by Eric von Daniken. And he goes, "It's real. It happened. It wasn't." And I'm like, it was built by people. Yeah, but how do you explain it? Easy. They just dragged it up the side of the pyramid. What are you talking about, man?
Well, I guess my point is that the thing is going on right now in Peru, that these aliens are taking over the form of people that they previously known, and nobody knows who's an alien and no one knows who's real. So that's why you should go. I mean, if you love this movie, you should go.
I haven't read it, but I assume there's some sort of government presence there that is.
I told you, they said that they're just guys on jetpacks that are beating up this little village. I'll send you some stuff, Charlie. I'm sure you won't believe any of it, but
government's trying to convince us that something over there isn't happening. I can't believe that you ever think that sort of thing happens, Joe.
Why would they even address? Well, all right, let's get into the movie.
Anyway, right, we have got a movie that we want to see. Should we go neatly into roll call?
Yeah, sure. although roll call is going to be hard because I think one of the problems with this film is it's got far too many actors in it. But
well, I've limited it.
100% agree. 100% agree.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've limited it, so I think we can briskly go through it because we don't have
enough chicks in this movie.
Well, there is one.
Is there?
Right. Okay. Good. Yeah. Well, we'll get to that. So here's roll call.
Roll call.
So, Kurt Russell. What do we think of Kurt? I mean, the last time they did Escape, who was on the podcast for Escape from New York? Was it just me and Amanda?
Yeah, it wasn't me. I wasn't there.
Yeah, we didn't like it. We didn't think it was any good. I thought it was overrated.
He's a poor man's Sly Stallone, isn't he? I think he's like a poor man's Steven Seagal in some respects.
But I think he's got more intelligence than those two, though.
Yes, I do. And do you know, I'm going to make. I knew this sort of thing might happen, so I'm ready. I'm ready for you both. I'm going to make a case for Kurt Russell. So here's the case for the defense: Escape from New York. Again, people like it. I don't. Escape from LA, dreadful. Siltwood. Big Trouble in Little China, Tequila Sunrise with Mel Gibson and Michelle Pfeiffer. How do you mess that film up? But he did. But Tango and Cash, Backdraft, bit of comedy with Captain Ron, Tombstone, Executive Decision so I can do action, Breakdown so we could do psychological thriller, which is incredible film. Breakdown is really
You're not
good.
Making a very good case.
I am. Poseidon does the big budget even though it tanked. Tarantino, Death Proof. Big Chains, Fast and the Furious, Tarantino again, Hateful Eight, Deepwater Horizon, which was a great. We loved it. We turned the volume up and it was brilliant. Guardians of the Galaxy, playing Santa in the Christmas Chronicles. Again, Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in America. Oh, sorry, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's not bad. It's better than Seagal. It's better than.
I think that Kurt Russell is one hell of a guy. I think he's a nice guy. I'd love to hang out with him. Love if he was my neighbor. But quite frankly, I don't think he can act. I mean, he's just, or he plays himself in almost every role that he's in. He's just really has nothing in him other than he's a nice guy. He's at that Keanu Reeves level, but I still prefer Keanu Reeves over him. He doesn't have it.
I get that. Dom, help me out here. Tango and Cash. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's a good film, Tango and Cash, but I think that's probably his career highlight, is it? That or
this.
I don't know.
He was good in this, I would say.
He's not. You compare him to Keanu Reeves, but at least Keanu Reeves has got The Matrix and Speed and John Wick. I don't think anything in Kurt Russell's library stacks up to those. Steven Seagal, I meant it slightly as a throwaway comment, but I think Under Siege is better than anything in Kurt Russell's filmography. Overboard, that kind of light romantic comedy, that's probably slightly underrated, but we are scraping the bottom of the barrel a bit with some of these movies. I just think he's a bit of a generic. I'm sure Joe's right. He's a good guy, and he's kind of a good-looking bloke, square-jawed, American kind of, bit of a hero. But he's a bit of a. We'll get Kurt Russell if you can't get the actual star that you want. That's how I would classify him.
Right. And again, he's not political. You have no idea what his politics are. He just enjoys doing what he does. So I give him credit for that. But I think that this was one of the shortcomings of this film, and this will probably come out in trivia, because I did hear that they were looking at Clint Eastwood.
Yes.
If Clint Eastwood played this role, it would be much more successful, even though, again, Clint Eastwood is not the greatest actor in the world, but he's got a better presence than Kurt Russell. And even like I was thinking just this morning, like maybe even someone like Gene Hackman, just anyone, he was okay. He was good in the role, but I think that it just lacked, a star power or a really good actor to sell it. And it also, like I said, it acted a lot. I don't understand why they didn't have any women. Could have had some hot chicks in the movie. And
it had Adrian Barbeau in it, though.
Yeah, I know about that.
Yeah.
And like Dom said, there are just too many people in it that you just don't care after a while who dies, who's the thing.
What?
It gets confusing as to who some characters are. Some of the more minor characters, they're interchangeable. It's like, I thought he was dead, or wait a minute, didn't he go off with him? And it's kind of hard to track. You should have. I think there's 12 people. If you look on the IMDb, they should have cut it to 6, 7 maximum. I think.
I understand
a couple of women.
Yeah, I understand that they were like in the Antarctic. Maybe in the beginning have an explosion where 6 of them die instantly. And then we get to know the other characters, because it's hard to, again, kind of know all 12 characters, especially if nobody really stands out. I mean, the only one I guess who stands out is Kurt Russell, and the other ones are just, like Dom said, they're forgettable, and you don't care if they're the thing or if they die or not. I don't know, just not a figure that's one way they could have improved the movie, and have it in a tropical setting.
I don't remember Keanu Reeves in 3 Tarantino films. I don't remember him in any Tarantino film. But anyway, I'm sure that the comparison
it's coming
is there. Oh, well, yeah, everyone's going to be in the 10th and final one.
He's going to play 3 roles like Peter Sellers and Dr. Strangelove.
And he'll fail all 3. Let's move on. Let's move just before we get to Keith David, because I think Keith David is quite an interesting one. Wilford Brimley, the old guy with the mustache.
It's an abomination to see Wilford Brimley without his mustache.
Well, it is, and you're used to seeing him with his mustache, but he was in Cocoon. That's the things that really propelled him, not this film. Cocoon 1 and 2. Joe, I thought I'd had to include this in. He was in the ill-fated Ewok spin-off film Battle for Endor.
I remember that. Yeah.
He played what you would expect Wilford Brimley to play, the kind of evil person, which is like the guy that delivers the really crushing news to you in a forceful yet polite way. In The Firm with Tom Cruise, he's like the bad guy. It's like saying, you need to do it this way. You got to do it this way. And you got no chance. It was in 46 episodes. I'm hoping you're going to help me out here, Joe, of Our House. Ring a bell?
Yeah, well, I remember the song because wasn't Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And
It
they
wasn't
did
madness.
Yeah, if you're on this side of the pond, it's madness.
It's madness every time.
No, I no, I know the madness one too, but Our House. But that was the theme, I think, for that series. You know, Our House is a very, very, very fine house. You know,
Oh, that was on an advert for a Screwfix or something over here. I don't know.
it's popular over here in the 70s. But anyway, yeah, I never really watched the show. But no, he does a lot of commercial. I think he's dead now. But he used to do like commercial for adult diapers and stuff like that, you know.
I got confused. I got confused when I was looking through because I swore blind that he's in Scrooged. He's one of the stagehands in Scrooged, and he goes, "We don't know how we're going to get these little antlers onto the mice." And Bill Murray goes, "Have we tried staples?" I was convinced that guy was Wilford Brimley. But anyway,
Oh, so it wasn't. It wasn't.
No.
Oh, okay.
But when we do Scrooge for one of our Christmas films, then yeah, we can discuss the Wilford Brimley moment that wasn't. Right, Keith David. First time the film. Weirdly, the film that I think of first when I think of Keith David is Something About Mary.
100%. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Franks and Beans.
That film is so underrated. I know it's popular and successful and kind of entered popular culture with the hair gel, shall we say, scene. But that film is fantastic. I can sit down and watch that anytime. And he's great in it. That scene in the bathroom where he gets his Frank and Beans. Yeah, that's...
You got Warren in the background. Frank and Beans.
Yeah. Great performance, great film.
But look at who he's. I mean, I stopped looking after a while because his filmography is just reams and reams on IMDb. Sometimes it's that short because they've only been in about 4 or 5 films. Usually it's, you scroll for a little bit and you go through them. This one, I'm like just holding my finger down and all these stuff to pass in. So I just had to pick out who hasn't he worked with, in the sense of, I mean, I couldn't find a Tom Cruise in there, and I'm sure he must have done. Platoon. So he worked with quite a few people in that one. Bird, They Live, Roadhouse, Patrick Swayze, Men at Work. We will do at some point. I know you're going to hate it, Joe, with Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez, but we're going to do it because Keith David's very good in it. Reality Bites, The Quick and the Dead, Volcano, Armageddon, Something About Mary, Chronicles of Riddick, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Transporter 2, the voice of the Arbiter in Halo series, and more recently, the voice of the President in Rick and Morty. And I'm like, and those are just the ones that I picked out. I don't know if anyone's got anyone else, but that's not bad.
No, it's funny because I think there was one movie in there that I actually saw of all the lists that you mentioned.
Okay. Wow.
He is a very well-known voice actor. I know him like for doing, like Disney is redoing, they're doing a live-action Gargoyles series, which I'm looking forward to. I used to love Gargoyles, which was, about these stone gargoyles that were transported from maybe Germany, I would say. They were under spell and they ended up transporting it over to Manhattan to like a Donald Trump type of guy, and they came alive once they the sun went down, and they were kind of like superheroes. It was good. He also did the voice of Spawn.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Now he's in he does a lot of voice overs or voice work. He's got an awesome voice.
He has. He's great in Rick and Morty. I mean, the character of the President is just great.
But Platoon's his other big film, though. That I recognise him from Something About Mary straight away. But also Platoon. Yeah, he's very good in that film too.
Yeah, definitely. Richard Masur, he came up in the start of this season when we talked about Risky Business. He also played the dad in License to Drive, which I do like. Two Corys, Corey Feldman, Corey Haim, Heather Graham. I do like that. We will get to that at some point.
She was in that.
Heather Graham, yeah.
Was in License to Drive. What was she?
Oh,
like,
yes. She
10?
played
Was she 10?
the passed out chick.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go back and watch it, Joe. It's very good.
I never seen it.
Oh, okay. David Channon, the guy that comes up with the best line in the film. I think I'm allowed to swear. I don't think I'm allowed to put. Okay, I won't swear because I had to turn on the overrated. I haven't told you this. I had to turn on the bad language thing on the podcast. So all of the podcast lot got the bad language thing. That's fine. I don't think it affected us too much for the listeners, but for the viewers, yeah, I think YouTube just put it over here in a box.
Oh, really?
We didn't get as many viewers because I don't think they saw it.
What was
unless
the
they were
word?
subscribed.
What was the word that we said last time?
Well, it's a C word, but the on a couple of occasions, and both of them were Dom, so it's fine. I'm not going to lay the blame directly at you, but I am.
I thought we'd agreed that we could swear, and if we're going to swear, we might as well swear properly.
Well, but we're not going to. I don't mind with the couple of, as my mum would say, SH1Ts that we've said so far. But he has the best line, and it says, and which is one of the best memes on the internet, which is, paraphrasing, "You got to be flipping kidding me," which I think is one of the best lines, and that's him. That's David Clannon.
So sorry, has our entire back catalogue now been rated explicit just for a couple of C-bombs?
Just that one. No,
okay.
Just that one.
Okay.
I'm glad I could still say punts.
Yeah, you can say all of that. I just think you don't use the F word, don't use the C word, but use all the others. I've seen some podcasts that haven't been rated. Yeah.
Okay.
I've no idea.
I thought that was a G word for you guys over there, because you guys do use it a lot.
What's G word?
Well, rated G for a general audience, like for, kids would not be offended by that word. Like people that watched the Teletubbies could hear that word.
Which word? The C word?
Yeah. No, because I hear you guys use it all the time. I mean, I used to listen to the Ricky Gervais podcast, and they were always calling each other the C word.
He didn't use the C word a lot, but when he used it, it was very effective.
The C word, as we'll refer to it, is the most explicit banned word on British TV. That is number one, and number two is the MF word. And those are the two which carry the biggest sanction and get you the worst ratings. So no, they're properly bad. I didn't think I used that word. I hate that word. Really, it's pretty awful.
Use it in the pretense of what they, Monty, you terrible.
Oh right, yeah, quoting somebody. That's a bit different, isn't it? No,
he didn't say it. He was quoting somebody.
Yeah, but the YouTube algorithm doesn't do that. It just goes, "Oh, I've two words here." Boom. So at least I was honest and told it. Look, you've got to expect this is what we're doing.
No, if you say that over here, it's like one of the worst curse words imaginable. Like,
but it's got a slightly different meaning. Because this is what one American once told me is that if you call somebody the C word in the UK, it just means like you're a horrible person. That's a very strong way of saying that. But in America, there was this HR woman in my old company, and she got described as this C word, and it kind of meant that she loved the drama, and she was like, not explaining
in America.
Yeah,
No, it just means one word: vagina.
Well, that's like its literal meaning, perhaps, but the way it's kind of applied to a person. Basically, his point was it's mainly used towards women, and it has a certain meaning. So I thought you'd be able to fill in the blanks, Joe, because it was a little while ago that I had this conversation. But anyway, this HR woman that he was referring to truly was a C word.
Was okay.
Yeah. In every possible way you could use the word. Yeah.
Right.
I've probably breached my. Let's move on. Let's move on.
Anyway, that guy that said the line was in 30 something, which was a completely overrated show, and he's also the co-pilot in the remake of National Lampoon's Vacation.
What a
Uh,
career.
Richard Dysart, the other
Give me a
guy
lot of
with
that
the other
joke for these
old guy
next
with
few.
old guy with specs. He was in one of our first podcasts we ever did, Moving Target, with Tom Skerritt and Jason Bateman. Go back and listen to that. That's us in our infancy. It's just me and Amanda. He was in Back to the Future 3. He was the barbed wire salesman. Ooh, ooh. He was Cromwell in Wall Street. You're out of line. This is an outrage. You're out of line, Gecko, at Teldar Papers shareholders meeting. But he's most famously known for LA Law, and he was in 171 episodes. And I used to like LA Law, so I thought it was good. Donald Moffat. Well, we'd covered him when we did Popeye. I think then I said he did The Thing and he was the president in Clear and Present Danger. Here I'm saying he was in Popeye and he was the president in Clear and Present Danger. And the last one, Charles Hallahan. I think the guy whose chest, well, we'll get to it. There's going to be plenty of spoilers. There always is. But where the chest opened up, that guy, if you remember, he was Pierce Brosnan's boss in the extremely entertaining guilty pleasure I have, Dante's Peak. I genuinely, I'll make a very good case for that film, even though I know, Joe, you despise Pierce Brosnan in quite.
I thought you were going to say his boss and Mrs. Doubtfire.
No, no. Dante's Peak with Linda Hamilton, who's really quite attractive in Dante's Peak. So anyway, I digress. There we go. See, we got through roll call reasonably quickly.
Did I ever tell you my friend?
Oh no, we didn't. Then here we go. Yeah.
No, this is interesting though. No, you mentioned Linda Hamilton. She was my friend's babysitter for years. Yeah, I think she grew up in Michigan, and she used to babysit her.
Not while she was an actress in.
No, before she was an actress. Okay. And then they were shocked to hear that she was gonna go to Hollywood and try to become an actress.
Any juicy insights into a young Linda Hamilton?
They just said she was.
Oh, look at this! Come on.
Any amusing insights? I should have probably said into a young Linda Hamilton.
Only that she was a good babysitter.
Which is
read
the
them bedtime
job in the
stories.
World. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She watched TV and ate biscuits, did she? Oh, talented girl.
She wanted that she poured kerosene on their beds and lit them on fire.
No, whatever. Whether it put her in a good light or a negative light, just interesting to hear about celebrities, isn't it? Before they were famous. Touching distance of Linda Hamilton, eh?
Oh, yeah.
That probably sounded wrong as well, didn't it?
Did you?
Just edit the whole section out, I think. Yeah.
Right.
I'm the HR woman if we're doing edits. But
no, we're not doing any edits. It stays in.
Are we not doing John Carpenter then? Normally, when we've got a really ropey.
Yes, let's do John Carpenter because I think he got. I think.
I got.
Go on. All right.
No, I was going to say I have another one too, but you can do John Carpenter first.
Well, let's look at John Carpenter because, I mean, you've got The Fog, you've got Escape from New York, you've got The Thing, you've got some of the Starman, you've got weirdly Santa Claus the movie.
He did Santa Claus the movie.
Yeah.
No way. He directed it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or did he? Wait a minute. I'm just reading this.
I don't think he did because it was like
Ilya
Salkind did Superman.
Well, Salkind offered Carpenter the chance to direct the latest fantasy epic Santa Claus the movie. Made the offer to Carpenter during lunch at London's The Ritz. And while he loved the idea of differing from the normal tradition of directing children's fantasy, he requested 24 hours to think about the offer. The next day, he made a list of requirements should he direct the film. They were 100% creative control, the right to assume script writing duties, being able to co-compose the film's musical score, total editorial control, the casting of Brian Dennehy as Santa Claus, and a $5 million signing-on fee, the same amount that Dudley Moore was receiving. And then they withdrew the offer. So yeah, okay, I'll take it back. I didn't read that properly.
A little pushy.
Yeah, but then he didn't have a. It didn't. It started with Halloween, so we've got Halloween, which is incredible.
I'm surprised. How come we didn't do Halloween? Was there a Halloween movie in the 80s?
Yes, there were. We've done one of them. Did you miss that, Joe?
We did it for sequels, didn't we? Halloween 2.
We did Halloween 2 last year.
Oh, well,
We really wish we hadn't. That's
don't
a
you think,
dreadful movie.
don't you think John Carpenter's is weird because he's quite well known and not necessarily the person in the street, but if you know about films, you know about John Carpenter, but he's not really had a hit since I'd say Big Trouble in Little China. That was 1986, and really his more recent stuff. I mean, Ghosts of Mars was his big comeback, wasn't it? And that was absolutely torn apart by critics, and I don't think troubled the box office at all. So yeah, he's got really. The one you haven't mentioned is Assault on Precinct 13. That's
of course, that's great film.
I think that's probably my favourite film of his. That or the original Halloween. The Fog's pretty good as well. But other than that, it's pretty ropey, and yet he's got this big name, big reputation. I'm not quite sure why.
Well, I think it's because
the Halloween movies,
the Halloween films. I mean, he went back and he was, he was involved in the remakes, the recent trilogy that came out, which I thought was all right. Actually, I thought it was pretty good. The third one wasn't great, but the other two were all right.
Yeah, Starman, I think, was one of the first movies I rented on VHS.
Okay.
I liked it. I cried at the end.
Oh dear. Did you cry at E.T.?
Yes.
Did you?
Yeah.
Why, Joe? It's one of the most overrated films ever. I mean, we didn't get to this at the start, but
I was younger, but I was just moved.
E.T. is a modern classic.
What?
You can't say it's overrated. Yeah.
It's I'm putting it in the box with
Forrest Gump.
The Goonies. Oh, and Forrest Gump. Yeah, I can go. They're all going there.
I know he hates Forrest Gump.
I hate Forrest Gump. Yes,
you hate the Goonies too. I mean,
no, I don't get it. I don't get it.
I mean, I don't hate it, but I think but I don't think it's great either.
If you want to buy me a present, which means I'll never speak to you ever again, you buy me "Hey You Guys" t-shirt, mug, or anything like that, or somebody doing truffle shuffle, and that's it. That's where our friendship ends. Quite abruptly, I would say.
Well,
truffle shuffle was pretty cool.
It's no Dante's Peak, is it, Charlie? That's
well, what is? I mean,
it's no Die Another Day.
Oh God, nobody like that. Come on, man. And me and Don went to see that as part of a works day out.
Yeah, that's what we used to get.
That? It was awful.
We used to get quarterly fund budgets. Do you remember that? God, that was back in the day, wasn't it? Yeah. And if you pooled your fund budgets, so if you did it, we went to Amsterdam, didn't we?
We went to Amsterdam.
Oh my God, on a work trip.
Are you allowed to say what you did there, or you just?
Well, we had a relaxed trip, didn't we? Put it that way. It was quite a weird experience sitting there with your colleagues, some of whom are good friends, some of whom you know less well, all absolutely battered by 11 o'clock in the morning. That was not a normal day at work. I'm getting paid for it as well. So yeah, that's God bless.
Can we have a coffee and a selection of the cabinet, please?
Do you remember that other trip we went on? I think in my head it was York, but it could have been a different city.
It was Skegness.
No, that was a different trip. Went to Skegness, went swimming in the sea without a change of clothes. So I was fully dressed. So that was a good idea.
It's very cold.
There was one, I think it was York or somewhere like that. And we, again, all absolutely hammered in the pub. I remember we were drinking whiskies. And then we were trying to cross the road, barely able to do that. And a prison van drove past us, and we're all banging on the side of the prison van. It's a good job I didn't get arrested. I walked onto the train and fell flat onto my face.
Was I there?
Yeah. I mean, you were. We were all steaming, but yeah.
It's a good thing you guys didn't get raped. Did you say prisoners were in a van?
Well, yeah. I mean,
we couldn't
they
get
were
out, Joe. I mean, we're all right. I mean, we got protection.
Oh God, yeah.
Didn't you ever see The Fugitive when they were in that thing? Train could have hit it, and they could have just been crawling out the window.
I'd throw Dom at them and peg it.
Do you remember that other one, Charlie, on that canal barge? We did that one at least twice. Again,
yes.
Absolutely rat ass trying to navigate our way through locks. I'm surprised we didn't sink. But I was so bad on that trip. I had to go to a wedding that evening, and this is what I was thinking. But turned up to this wedding absolutely leathered, and there was a free bar at this wedding, and I couldn't enjoy it. I couldn't participate in it because I'd already had far too much. I think I was in bed for about 7 o'clock, 7:30 that evening. So yeah,
popular then.
Oh, honestly, I got into the.
But that's the whole point of getting the whole point about getting a narrowboat or barge or whatever is you drive it to a pub, you moor up, and then you just drink very quickly. I remember very quickly and a lot. And then you get back on the thing, and then you go up to the next pub.
Yeah, it wasn't so much the 3 or 4 pubs that we visited. It was the fact that people brought crates of Stella on the actual. So you didn't have to wait for the pub. It didn't have to wait for socially acceptable time to start drinking. You just pile into the cans at like 9:30 in the morning, couldn't you? That's what undid us yet again. So
don't mention the company of I mean, people can go back and put 2 and 2 together, but yeah. They were very generous to us and gave us some very good times.
Goodness. Yeah. No, those are, I thought all businesses were like that all the time. I thought everyone got paid, 4 times a year, go out and get absolutely arseholed on the company. All right then, yeah. So, yeah, happy
It's
days.
more than 4 because at some point they had bars in the middle of Nottingham, and they just went, "Help yourself." There's $3,000 behind the bar, and it's just like you were telling people to go home. No, at like 7 o'clock, 7:30. Yeah, you need to go. You need to catch the bus. You need to catch the train. More for us. So at the end of it, we were drinking martinis. We were going, "Oh, martini, please, shaken, not stirred." I thought we were really, really cool, and we really weren't.
I found some photos from those dudes. When Amanda asked me something for your birthday that I sent down to her, and I was going through those. Yeah, I mean, they were just everybody, no matter what level of seniority in the company, from junior folks on the help desk like us to senior executives. 8 o'clock at night, rat arms around each other's shoulders. It was it was loads of fun.
Anyway, we have got film. We have got a film to do, but yeah, this is. I think our listeners genuinely. I mean, write in by all means if you like more banter like this. We could just yeah. Anyway,
I did want to say so. I got one.
We're not going to get there, are we? We're really not going to get there.
No, the composer, Ennio Morricone, who did the spaghetti western ones.
Yeah.
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And I read it got a Razzie. Like he got a Razzie for the worst.
Yes, I read that, yeah.
Are they crazy? It wasn't that bad. I thought it was fine.
I thought the score was a problem in this film. Definitely. It's too noisy. And, it's supposed to be set in the Antarctica, so like desolate wasteland, and all you've got is this music. I hate the synths that they used all over the place in the 80s as well.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Come on, if you hear boom 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 boom, I don't mind automatically think of the thing.
I don't mind the bass. Yeah, I know. No, that was all right. The bass, although I thought they overdid it and B it was too loud. But that synth stuff, it gives me a headache. It makes me feel sick. That like totally overdone 80s synth music. It goes right through me. So yeah, not a fan of the score. He got a Razzie. I'm not surprised.
I mean, it was no Star Wars theme, but I mean, it wasn't horrible. It wouldn't, for me anyway. I mean, it was adequate. But I think it's insulting to give someone like that a Razzie.
Yeah, definitely. No, I don't think water off a duck's back, really. But anyway.
Anyway, the film.
Right. So to the film. Great opening. Dog being chased across the Antarctic by a Norwegian helicopter, trying to kill it, trying to shoot it. I do like the start because I think the start is the Norwegians are focused on one thing. It's almost like the other people aren't there. They're just focused on killing the dog. They don't want to talk. They don't want to explain themselves. They just want to do it. And I think that makes it a really strong opening from my point of view.
I think it's the best scene in the film with hindsight. When you sit down and watch the whole thing, I think the opening's probably the strongest bit. That he's totally unexpected, isn't he? You don't know what's going on. Why is this guy... Yeah, and the fact it's an animal, I think, appeals to, and they return to this later on when there's the metamorphosis in the dog pen. But an animal being harmed kind of triggers people or makes you more involved than if it was just a person running along. I think would do as well. So I thought it was great the way they did that. They must have blown a load of the budget on this particular opening, but it definitely brings you into the film straight away. And I just think it's a bit of a shame how that. In my notes, the actor that looks like Stan Laurel ends up shooting with a pistol, doesn't he? The guy that's the original base commander. He looks like Stan Laurel's time travel to the 1980s. But no, brilliant opening.
Yeah, and I love that opening. I thought that was pretty cool. I felt so bad for was it a dog or was it I guess it was a husky.
Yeah.
I felt bad for it. And then after a while I was, once like they started zooming in on it, I was like, oh, so that's the thing. Now I get it. Now I know why they were shooting at it.
Right.
But I think the dog was the best part of the movie, actually.
The dog is good. The dog is really the way that the dog is in the pen with the other dogs with all the stuff going on around it. It's just chilling that it's just there and it's motionless. And you're like, that's really freaky. That's
Well,
really
even
freaky.
when it's walking down the hallway, like really slowly, and they're playing that classic music, you know, it was pretty cool. I actually enjoyed, the dog a lot.
Well, absolutely. From there, it then becomes the dog infects the other dogs and has infected somebody.
Yeah, but hang on, hold your horses, because before we get to that, so
moving it along.
You've had, yeah, no, I get it, but you've had this scene where I think we all agree is a really strong opening, and then your heart sinks a bit because then they start to introduce the cast and crew, and there's bloody hundreds of them that we've already talked about, and they're all kind of stereotypes as well, and really pretty cliched. I know there's always a bit of that, even a film like Saving Private Ryan, when you get introduced to the kind of battalion and things, then there's the Italian guy, the Jewish guy, the kind of psycho, the hero, there's all these archetypes. But here I just thought it was pretty implausible that this is what a scientific American base looks like in the Antarctic, openly smoking dope for a start. That I thought was a bit unlikely. And they're so interchangeable. They could have at least made them look a bit more physically different, apart from the fact there's a couple of black guys, maybe one older bloke. The rest of them are just generic brown-haired guys that could be anyone. It's totally confusing who they are. So yeah, problem number one, Charlie.
Well, I have a problem with the start of the film, and that is that chess machine. All the things that are there are supposed to keep them occupied for months upon end, and he wrecks the chess machine just because he thinks it's cheating, and then wrecks it. And I'm like, what about all the other chess players? That's a bit that really annoyed me the very first time I watched it. I went, the tech is there to stop people going mad. It's like to challenge their minds and give them, and you just wrecked it by pouring J&B, which was my grandfather's favorite drink, but it features really heavily in this. I think one of the reviews was Roger Ebert said, yeah, this is a sort of middling thing, but it's a massive advert for J&B Scotch. And I'm like, well, yeah, pretty much everywhere.
That was just for a laugh for the audience, which I kind of felt like as when we're looking at where we are now, that computer probably sucked, which means Kurt Russell sucked at playing chess.
I don't know. Didn't they program it with the grandmasters and stuff like that? I know I used to play chess on the BBC Micro, but
well, it is ridiculous that he would do something like that, But again, I think it was just for a laugh.
But then once the characters have been introduced, we then get the dog, and then we get the paranoia seeping in, because you're introduced pretty quickly. I like the fact that, yes, we get the backstory. Yes, they fly to the Norwegian base to find out what happened, and you see some, awful things, awful contorted faces. You see people trying to commit suicide and what they've done because of what they've seen, possibly, or what they experienced. And I do like that. And I do think the reveal, I'm not trying to move it on too quickly, but I do also like the reveal of the crashed spaceship, which we haven't mentioned, opens the film. You do see the spaceship right at the start, but you don't know how long it's been there.
And I think it's implied, isn't it, that the thing took down that UFO, so that's what made it crash in the first place. I thought that was kind of well done. But I think the film, I think so. Rather than the thing is the actual alien that was piloting the ship, I think it was that it brought down the ship, and that's why it's in the Antarctic region at the moment. That's my take on it as well. Perhaps that's just my.
You may very well be right. I didn't think about that.
It's like in the film Alien, or is it Aliens, whichever one it is, where you see there's another alien, like a third alien, and it's had something's burst out of its chest, and so it's. I thought that's the way that I interpreted the start of the film, that the UFO's in distress, and that's why it crash lands on Earth. But I think that the film works really well as like the set piece scenes are great, like the opening that we've discussed, the dog in the pen, and the eerie way that's handled when they go and explore the Norwegian base. I think those are all great. It's just the bits that interlink it, either drag or repetitive or are hard to follow. So it's kind of the way that. So therefore, I think the director takes a lot of the responsibility for some of the flaws in this film. He doesn't link and bring it together. And there would be ways of cranking up the tension and doing it differently, but it's just a series of stuff that happens between the big set pieces. I'd suggest.
But don't you think that some of those set pieces are helping you work out who is and who isn't? So, for example, one of the things that I took is that Wilford Brimley is locked away in that shed, and basically Kurt Russell goes to visit him and opens up the hatch, and he says, "Can I come back? Can I come back in now?" Which made me thought, well, okay, well, this is telling us that he is the alien, he is the thing. Because why would he want to go back into a situation if he wasn't the thing? Why would he want to go back into where he would be at risk? And I thought there were little bits like that you call the filler. I call it,
It was cold in that place, so he probably was cold.
But I think there's a problem with plausibility here. I know you have to suspend disbelief to some extent when you're watching a film about, alien shapeshifters and things like that. But you've got this alien life form, which they all know exists because they saw what happened to the dogs. There's no kind of skeptics amongst them. And it likes to attack by people individually when they're on their own. So the way around that is to have like a little buddy system, or to all sit in the same room, and keep an eye on one another. But they just wander off, randomly. They sit with their backs to doorways that are open and make themselves extremely easy to target. So as the audience, you've got no idea who's infected or not, because all sorts of dumb behaviours are going off. All sorts of things happen off camera as well, and then explained, verbally to other cast members and things like that. So it's pretty hard to kind of have any element of who done it. So I thought the tension was undermined by that approach they took to the film.
Oh wow, okay. What do you think, Joe?
I still don't know what the purpose of the thing was. Like, what was it trying to do? Like, it could basically possess multiple hosts, I guess, which I didn't think that was going to be the case because I'd never seen it before. I thought it was just one person, and then it could move after one person maybe died, maybe he'd murder one of them, and just.
But then you see the doctor showing the infection rate and what would happen if it got out.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, before I'd seen it, I was kind of surprised that it would be like that. But I guess, like when Dom was saying, that it attacked the aliens that were in that ship, and it made me think a lot just within the last few minutes, because it is possible that is what happened, but it had to have some kind of intelligence. Or is it just is it like an animal trying to survive?
Like a virus, I thought would be the better comparison. So it reminded me of that, is it The Last of Us? Is that what it's called? That game that they made into a very successful show. And that was obviously like a fungus, wasn't it? But this was more like a virus. Its purpose is to spread. And that's kind of what it does. That's how I saw the creature. I mean, what was the explanation in the original one, Charlie? If you've seen the 50s version,
I can't remember. Have a chat. I'll have a chat and I'll look it up. Or you can wait for me.
Well,
That's fine. Wait a minute.
Here we go, audience. You can listen to us Google in real time.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I don't know.
I'll tell you what. While Charlie frantically types, Joe, I'll take to task on something that you said earlier. You didn't like the setting in Antarctica, and should it be set in the tropics or something? But I thought it was interesting. If you're going to set it there, surely you want to kind of make the best use of that landscape, and the fact that it's inhospitable and highly dangerous kind of lends itself to an interesting film. But 95% of it was shot inside the base, and when it wasn't, they were just walking along within the camp. I thought they kind of totally underused the potential for that setting.
I was just kidding about the tropics, but I don't know. Like I said, it just, for some reason, it to me, it just didn't do anything to me, the looks wise and the whole snow and ice. I think it would have been interesting if it was even like less secluded, like if it happened like within a city.
Oh, look at you, Joe. The Thing too. Yeah.
Well, maybe they should set it in Peru, given what's going on there. They could make it
That's
like
what's going on.
They could make it like a Paddington crossover, couldn't they? Paddington gets the thing.
So the
Bites the face off
1950,
his
the
handler.
1951 film Thing is the Thing is a humanoid life form whose cellular structure is closer to vegetation, or that must feed on blood to survive. The reporter Scott even refers to it in the film as a super carrot. The internal plant-like structure of the creature makes it impervious to bullets, but not to other destructive forces. Campbell's the Thing is a life form capable of assuming the physical and mental characteristics of any living thing it encounters. This characteristic was later realized in John Carpenter's adaptation about it. So basically, the original book, which is called 1938, Who Goes There, is probably more suited to John Carpenter's The Thing than the other one, if that makes sense.
So super carrot. That's my main takeaway from that
Super
explanation.
carrot. You're going to call yourself that next time when we do
Yeah.
Crocodile Dundee for the season end. Can we just have a moment of pause here, just to shout out to Rob Botton, the special effects guy.
Yeah.
I mean, 22 years old, and he came up with all of that. He actually, I know it's part of the trivia, but he did all the effects, and he practically lived on the set, lived at the studio, because he was just working on it all the time. And he got so bad that he collapsed because of exhaustion, had to get taken to the hospital at 22. And yet he comes up with that. And I think the effects are really good for an early 80s film. I think it's well realized. I think the dog, I think the bit where the tentacles are coming out the dog, and all the things that were in his mind when obviously working with John Carpenter, said, this is what I'd like it to look, but just go and do it. Just go and realize it. The chest bit with the mouth that bites the hands off, the bit with the, obviously, where they're all tied together.
Well, just like the autopsy, I thought was really impressive.
Yeah.
And while I was watching it, I imagine, I never saw it in the theaters. I could see people during that time were not, didn't have as strong a stomach, or, or what's the word, conditioned to all of the gore that we see now. Like, you just watch The Season of the Boys and this looks tame.
Yeah.
I could see people like walking out of the theater from it being so gross and disgusting, but it looked real.
Yeah. I remember just finding it very disturbing the first time I saw it. I just found the whole thing and how it all came together. But I guess I walked into it from a snowy scene into a cinema with snowy scenes and walked out again.
And how old were you?
So what was it? 93? 21.
Oh, okay. So you weren't a youngster.
No. But I didn't like horror as much as I do now. So I was slightly nervous about going and seeing it, especially in the cinema. But thankfully, there were people that were far more scared from my point of view. I did know about the chest, so I knew that was coming. But yeah, the rest of it was just a pleasant surprise. So yeah, I just wanted to stop and say, you've got to take your cap off to the effects.
So I'm not as familiar with this guy, but did he go on and have a long, successful career?
He did.
Hollywood special effects?
Total Recall was one of his.
Oh.
That's one that I can remember. I think he did just. I don't usually type during this sort of thing, but yeah, from a point of view of what else he did, he was hired to create the special makeup effects for The Fog, so that's where he first started. So good lord, it was just even earlier than that. He's worked on Star Wars. I'm picking out the best ones: The Fog, The Thing, The Howling, Legend. He did the effects in Legend, which is a V-Swick.
Awesome effects.
Well, which is a V-Swick, Inner Space, RoboCop, Total Recall, RoboCop 2, Basic Instinct. So you can see his effect was probably the stabbing of the eye at the start with the ice pick in Basic Instinct.
He didn't do Starship Troopers as well, did he? Because if he was working with the Basic Instinct director.
Yeah, Paul Verhoeven. No, it doesn't show up, and it looks like the sort of thing that he would do. Did Seven, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Fight Club, Game of Thrones. Yeah, he's had quite the career.
That's pretty hardcore, yeah. Well, if he's that talented at 22, then he deserves it. So yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
I think unarguably the special effects are exceptional for 1982.
Yeah. The bit, I know we're going through the film, and I'm probably like looking towards the end, but I do think the end is the bit that lets it down. if there's anything that lets the film down, I think it's the reveal at the end, and the the thing that's going up the floorboards, the boards, and it's coming through, coming from underground. It reminded me of that scene in Godzilla, which is completely the 1998 travesty. It was an awful film. But the boards that came up at that point, and you just think, yeah, I can. It's a tried and tested type thing. It works. There's something big down there. It's causing it to do this. But yeah, I think the ending was the thing that let it down for me. But the tests with the blood, and that's quite. When you think about it, that's quite a good test to have. I mean, Joe, you said, or was it you said that everyone, or Dom, everyone was off in different places, and they should have all been in the same room and should have all looked at each other. When they do that and tie everybody up, that's really not a good thing to do either.
Well, only because he totally mishandles the aftermath of it. I thought that seemed, again, another set piece scene that's very effective. Finally, some common sense to the kind of approach to combating the threat, and they do that test with the hot needles, and the blood which rejects the needle it reveals the person's been infected, and I thought that was pretty well handled. But then, spoiler, the one guy that has been affected, I think, kills another individual, doesn't he? Because Kurt Russell's flamethrower is not working properly, and it's kind of just stands around and watch it.
Yeah, the black guy, yeah,
stands around watching it. Yeah, so you're right. The way the good idea, poorly executed, I think. But yeah, the ending itself is problematic. I think it just fizzles out. It's like we couldn't have a better idea, so this is the way we did it. And I think the idea is supposed to be self-sacrifices, and it's they kind of freeze to death, and that captures the thing on Antarctica for an extended period, or until the rescuers come, at least, for them. But I thought that was probably a problem with the film, is that the jeopardy's undermined, because at no point do the humans really seem like they're going to be able to combat the thing. It's too powerful for them. It's not like the cut and thrust, will they, won't they? They're kind of trashed, really. He's already defeated the Norwegians. Now he's going to defeat the Americans, and perhaps things need to be on more of an even par for it to be truly horror, truly scary, as opposed to just an inevitable demise at the end of it. What did you think, Joe?
I was going to ask you about the ending. So the way it ends, there's only the two of them left, Kurt Russell and David Keith. So one of them is the thing, or are they both the thing? I guess one of them is.
One of them is. One of them is. One of them isn't.
I thought neither of them were, and that's why they agreed to kind of sit there and freeze to try and preserve humanity, or at least delay it. No,
but if that organism was within them, wouldn't somebody thaw them out eventually, and then it would come back? Isn't that what happened with the original thing? Because wasn't it
again? I probably should have watched it and then been able to.
No, I'm talking about
it.
No, that the dog, because the Norwegians found the aliens, and they thawed out or the alien ship, and that's what caused the thing to revive.
I mean, yeah. From my point of view, I think Kurt Russell is the thing, and actually, no. Wait a minute. I know that the black guy. I know Keith David isn't, because he takes a sip from his whiskey, and he wouldn't do unless he thought that. Wait a minute. Maybe neither of them are.
I think it's neither, but I think it's purposefully ambiguous, isn't it? There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
It's just slightly.
But I guess my point is, though, if they do freeze to death, and somebody eventually finds them and thaws them out, I just think that the thing is going to be regenerated, because I do think that was the whole reasoning of how the Husky got it, because these Norwegian scientists found the UFO, they found the alien that was buried deep, within the ice. They thawed him out, and by thawing him out, it caused the thing to come out of his body. Probably the one way to stop it from spreading would be to freeze it, but you'd have to have it remain frozen.
Yeah.
I think it does imply that in this logic of the film that humanity is doomed. You know, there's computer modeling that they do earlier where the whole population of the world is infected quite quickly because presumably there'll be some rescue planes sent eventually to explore why the Americans and Norwegians aren't reporting back, and then they'll get infected and then they'll get rescued, etc., etc., until eventually it jumps off out of Antarctica and that's that then really. I think that's the logic of the film.
For completest sake, you can actually go and watch the it wasn't the remake, it was the Thing prequel in 2011 with Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Really?
She's the lead, yeah. So it's the events that happen before the dog. So at the end of that film directly leads to the start of John Carpenter's.
Oh, that's good. It's hot chicken, that one. At least one.
Yes. Yeah, well, there you go, Joe. You're easily satisfied in that way. Should we get into a little bit of trivia before we then give the scores?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. This film is showing British Antarctic stations. Apparently, it's a bit of a tradition now that they do every midwinter feast they do on June the 21st. They all watch The Thing at their different stations. It's one of the things that they do. I kind of like that. I think if you're watching that film when you're stuck in the middle of nowhere, great. Let's bond, everyone.
Well, that's not bad. I do recall. I know you're a huge Jaws fan. I think that they have some sort of Jaws festival. I don't know if it's every year or on the anniversaries, where people watch the movie while they're in inner
the water.
tubes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's got to be worse, I think.
And you've got the divers underneath.
Oh, do you really?
Yes,
the divers
you do.
underneath, like
Yes.
pulling on your yay.
And if you're
on the legs and stuff like that.
So they've got the film playing. This is absolutely true. They have the film playing, and they have their cues. So like when Alex Kintner on the raft, you've got the two people, the two guys that are with the Sunday roast trying to hook it, and all those sorts of things, all those jump scares, the head coming out the water, all those sorts of things. There is a team of divers underneath that is just waiting to pick on unsuspecting people and drag them down.
Oh, screw that! I wouldn't do that.
And
it's at night too.
Yeah, it's at night.
Yeah, screw that.
Yeah, well, Joe, you got to. I mean, if I'm going to go all that way, I mean, it's 2025 is the 50th anniversary of Jaws, and nobody can stay in Martha's Vineyard because it's so bloody expensive because the Obamas and Oprah Winfrey's taken it over. So we're like, great. Well, now where do we stay? And I was like thinking of renting a Winnebago.
No, I think they're renting an inner tube.
And driving up and Jaws Fest was a thing. The town is always ready to have tours that you can do throughout the year. But Jaws Fest, the last one was about 10 years ago, and they had three on the bounce, and they did that, and they had actors and everyone that came in, and they recreated it. You had a best Indianapolis speech who could do Robert Shaw's speech. There was a guy that just walked around as Quint around the town, and it was just wonderful. But yeah, sorry, I don't know how we got to that. But yeah,
no, I mean, it reminds me of this story. I knew this girl in the Midwest, and this guy asked her out, like some farmer or something like that, and she really liked him. So they went to. It was around Halloween, and during Halloween they have haunted houses, and they celebrate it over there, and they do weird things. And so this was their first date. And when they got there, they had this thing where they would bury you in a coffin, and as a kick, to see what it'd be like. And he says, "Oh, why don't you do that?" So she didn't want to disappoint him, so she agreed to it. So they basically buried her 6 feet under in a coffin. And it just reminded me of that. And I was like, well, you're an idiot for doing it. What?
I was going to say, what happens if the guy that does the has a heart attack? Then that's it.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah, you're dead.
Again, I'm sorry to keep bringing this up. I also knew this girl. She was an Asian girl that I worked with, and she really wanted to go out with this guy. And he says, "Oh, do you like skydiving?" And so she misheard what he said, and she goes, "Oh yeah, I do it all the time." And so she was once they ended up. So their first date was to jump out of a plane, and she was afraid to tell him that she never did it before, and she jumped out of the plane, and she passed out, and some guy had to pull a zip cord on her.
What did she think it was?
I don't know. I guess he had like a thick accent or something like that. I think she would have figured out by the time they were at the airport.
Maybe she brought some some chains and some whips or something, and went, "Yep, I'm ready."
It's like,
Well, I just think you've got to be careful about agreeing to any sort of form of diving unless you've heard it properly, because cave diving, deep sea diving, they all require a level of skill, really, don't they? That you don't just want to blag your way through. Perhaps would be the exception, but yeah.
Anyway, a little bit more trivia. The sets were cooled to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It was 80 outside. It was a $15 million budget. It only made 19.1 back, unfortunately. For comparison, Friday the 13th budget was 700k. Halloween's was 355k. So those are good returns for both of those films. In 2003, two guys, Todd Cannon and Steve Crawford, went to the place where it was filmed in British Columbia, and they found Outpost 31, and they took loads of memorabilia for themselves. So he's got the rotor blade from the Norwegian helicopter that they blew up, and he brought that back all the way back. I'm like, well, okay, I'm sure I can find you.
Fun getting that through customs.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, that's it. Just a nice quick trivia. There was quite a lot of trivia, and we would have been here all day, but yeah. So, marks out of 10. If I went first, then I'll go first because it's nice to. Yeah, I could watch this again. I will watch it again. I'm not going to say I'll take it on holiday with me, but which I'm off next week. Thank you. So looking forward to that. But yeah, it's a great film. I think it's a really does what it says on the tin. It's paranoia. You're right, Joe. It's more sci-fi than it is. I think it's a film that Amanda could have watched, and she could have joined in with us. I would have told her when to look away, and said, don't look at this bit. But yeah, well, as you say, you've seen far worse in The Boys, and you've seen far worse in stuff that you see now. So I guess it's just, what people condition to. And I still think it's slightly disturbing. I still think there's that element throughout it that's disturbing. But my mark out of 10 would be a nice, solid 8 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
Dom.
I mean, which order we went in, yeah. So I think the big set pieces are good. The helicopter hunt, the dog transformation, the Norwegian base, the needles and the blood scenes. So I think that's good. I just think it's the bits in between that are less successful. There's too many cast members in it, and they in my view, squander the opportunity of setting in the Antarctic. But I think I probably have upped my score a little bit, particularly thinking about our conversation on this pod about the special effects, because I think they certainly were very, very good for the time. So I've upgraded my original 5 out of 10 to a 6 out of 10 on that basis. So 6 out of 10 for me.
It's nice that these things happen. Sometimes, we reevaluate our scores while we're on here. So yeah, I like that. Joe, have you had a similar sort of epiphany, or?
No, I saw the same score. I would say, again, I agree with Dom. There just were too many people in the movie and people that we didn't care about. But I thought it was an Alien ripoff, but it was a decently done Alien ripoff. Could have used more chicks, and I would give it a 7 out of 10.
It's all right. 6, 7, 8. Yeah,
I think it's a decent film. It's not a train wreck of a film. It's it's an okay film, but it's something I just don't want to watch again. There's just so many good movies out there that I'm not going to waste my time watching this over again.
Right.
Well, we're all saying it's above average, aren't we? So that's fair enough. And you really liked it, Charlie, so it resonated with you. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. So the next time that we'll all be back together for the season finale. And then we do our Christmas films.
Yeah.
I've got some ideas, by the way. I've been playing around. Look, Dom got me into it. Okay, I've been playing around with something called Leonardo AI, and you tell it to imagine a scene, and then imagine something it delivers. It's pretty good, and I put in for Crocodile Dundee. So this is one such thing. I just wanted a picture that I could put on social media, and apparently, Chris Hemsworth was in talks a few years back of doing a Crocodile Dundee remake.
Mhm.
I know, but it allowed me to put it in there, and I know, and I'd started to play around. So I put Bill Murray as Crocodile Dundee, and the output is pretty good. And so I think that'll help us. Yeah, I'll send you some on WhatsApp. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I put in there's some things that you put in, and then it goes, no, you can't have that, you perv. So yeah, it does have limits.
Other AI engines are available, Charlie.
They are. That's the only one that I played around with. But yeah, Bing's is rubbish, by the way. I mean, I know I still have the, you know how I think about AI, but yeah, Bing has brought this thing out, and I put the same thing in Bing, and it goes, "Do you mean this?" And it's nothing like what I asked for. Nothing like. It's like you just randomized something from. Oh, it's all bobbins.
It's getting there. Just give it a couple of years.
Yeah, and then with the podcast, we'll do it for us. We'll just scan our avatars, give it a few things like, I like Rodney Dangerfield or something like that, and it'll go, right, okay, yeah, I'll build you a persona. Can we have a shout out to Burt Young, who died this week? Obviously, Paulie and Rocky, but it was also Lou in Back to School. I've got to say, I really liked him in that film. So
I thought he was dead a long time ago.
Right, okay.
No, but a
touching tribute there from Joe.
Yeah, Joe. Sorry. I'm too careful. I'm wiping away. It's like Jesus.
No, I did. No, when they did the Rocky IV, the director's cut, I had seen him show up at one of the theaters with Stallone. I was like, he's still alive. He didn't look good. I mean, he looked like he had gone through the mill. He probably had some, disease or whatever, or maybe a stroke or something. So yeah, rest in peace.
I'm welling up again, Joe.
Sorry.
You've recovered earlier. Yeah.
Go and watch and Back to School and listen to our podcast and listen to how much Amanda hated it, because it wasn't Burt Young she hated. She just cannot stand Rodney Dangerfield, and I don't know why, because I think he's genuinely one of the greats. Personally.
Easy Money. She should see that. That's a great movie.
Oh, she'd hate that. She'd hate the start with being the photographer with the kids. She'd hate that. She'd never make it past that. No way. Never happen. Caddyshack we will do one day, and it will be without Amanda.
Oh, she's got to watch Caddyshack. Come on.
Oh, wait a minute. Was that a sigh of, oh, God, one day we have to do Caddyshack, Dom?
Oh, no. I said, no, she's got to watch it.
No, not you. Not you, Joe.
Okay. Sorry, Dan.
I picked it up on...
I don't think it's aged well, Caddyshack.
What?
I'm sorry.
What?
This could be another repeat of Breakfast
I even
Club.
like Chevy Chase in it, and I don't say that very often.
I like Chevy Chase.
Chevy Chase outside of National Lampoons is not good. Fletch, good lord, how bad is that? And Fletch Lives, which is even. How do you make Fletch worse? You make Fletch Lives. Oh wow, okay. What, we're going to do a lot of plantation style gags here? Yeah, because that's always a winner.
Jokes about slavery, that'll get you cancelled these days, don't it?
Yeah. Surprised it's not got a warning on. I wouldn't know, because I would never watch it on any platform, free or otherwise. Mind you, if there was only two films left in the world and there were Forrest Gump and Fletch Lives, then I'm settling down for a bit of Chevy Chase. So yeah, that's how bad. That's how bad it is.
If Amanda was here tonight, which sadly she isn't, she'd be telling us to wrap it up, I think, now.
She would,
yeah.
And so we're going to. I'm going to say cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Woo. See ya.
No woo-woo.
Could do a spooky goodbye.
Do a spooky thing.
Boo.
This is where Monster Mash starts kicking in now. I can see
okay,
how you do this,
I'll edit it in. It's fine. I'll do that. Yeah, all right, okay. Bye, everyone. Cheers.